Hello, everyone. This is David Ellis, and today I have a very special lady. She's a digital marketing specialist for DNA Power Incorporated, and this show is about health and health trends and health solutions for you guys. So, for those of you who haven't explored the concept of getting a DNA screen yet, please contact myself, Sarah Fox, or Amy, and we will set that up for you. Okay. Nicole, first of all, tell us about yourself and how you ended up working at DNA Power Incorporated.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, David, for having me. So I started with DNA Power not too long ago, and my background is in horticulture, so I am already very interested in health. And when I moved away from horticulture, I went into marketing, but I still wanted to focus on wellness and health. And that's how I came across DNA Power. And Lois is also a good friend of mine. And I've always heard about what she's doing, but I never lived in the country. I was based in Australia, and just came back and am now working for her here in Vancouver.
Okay, so I interviewed Lois some time ago, and she gave me the rundown on the DNA. There is an aspect to this which is more of a business side and so on. A lot of people do not see the economics of healthcare working in their favor. They wait until they get sick before they actually do something about their health. And what you guys are espousing is more of a preventative strategy, know the facts first and so on. You want to talk a little bit about the economics of trying to cure something when you could have avoided it?
Right. Yeah, I think this goes back to actually my previous field of study, which was horticulture. It was really interesting to me because we did pesticide spraying to start, and we wore these full body suits from hands to toes, covered. And I was always interested in health before then, but it was really the act of doing that when I realized how covered I am, and then spraying food that we eat. I had to do the action to actually make myself realize how scary that was, and how this just the circle of the food life just didn't make sense to me. That was, I guess, the biggest. It was helpful to do that, because then I realized I don't want to do that. I would like to do that.
Okay, I really need to pick your brain here. So you are actually part of the people who spray foods and so on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the reason you were wearing a hazmat suit was because they know the chemicals are dangerous, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Why do they spray them if they're dangerous?
Mostly because we live in a time where there's a lot of people. The world's quite populated, and we need a lot of food to be produced. And the only way for them to do that was basically producing a large amount. And the way to keep the crops was, in their what they valued was having how can I say, like a large amount of food for the people.
I see.
But the way to do that without it getting
the shelf life.
disease they would have to spray.
Okay, so for the sake of actually producing large quantities of food,
Yes.
they spray to protect from bugs and stuff like that?
Way better said. Thank you, David.
No, it's fine.
I'm losing my words there.
No, but we get, because we're very interested in this kind of process, because, well, I'm vegan, and a lot of vegans think that they've escaped the harms of the food system by giving up meat. And that's an illusion, isn't it?
Yes, correct. It is.
It's actually worse.
Yeah. I think I don't know this stat completely perfectly, but someone said the other day, if you're getting a little cup of spinach nowadays, to get the same nutritional value, if you wanted that cup of spinach with the same nutritional value back in our when our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors were growing up, you'd need 50 cups of that spinach. So the nutritional value of our food, even if we're eating the greens and all the good vegetables out there as a vegan, it's still not as much nutritional value, which is too bad. But there are other ways to go around it, which I think people are confused about.
I actually want to stay on the horticultural
Yep.
concept because this is your area of expertise, and this is a wonderful thing for the audience because we talk about this stuff often, but we never really had somebody who was actually in that industry before on the show. So over years, I think that soil depletion is a horrible thing, right?
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand the process by which the land that they grow the food on is important as the food that comes from it. You want to
Right.
talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Um, yeah. So I think, especially, I don't know, I'm young, and I think people in their 20s, that, I guess, awareness of where the food actually comes from is quite lost, unfortunately. And it's so easy when we walk into a grocery store to just pick the lush, plump, perfectly round apple, rather than the one that is quite small, and then there's another one, little one coming off of it, which I just found in archery. Um, the food industry would never allow that because it doesn't look perfect. And when I was living in Australia, this reminds me, there's probably a similar brand in Canada, but we had a brand, and it was called, what was the name? I've lost it now. It's basically fruit and veggie that's not perfect, but they sell it in a bulk bag, and it's
Yeah.
cheaper. And it's basically to make people aware that, this is what the fruit and veg actually looks like, and you can eat it, and it is good for you. And this one bag in particular wasn't sprayed, so it was free of pesticide, and it was organic. So yeah, I think there is some little industries are putting things out there like that example. But I do think when I look at people in my generation, there is no connection to food. There is no understanding of where it came from because we've lost that connection. I don't think it's really talked about upon. But my partner is French, and when I moved there, we lived in the south in Marseille, and when we would get chicken, we would go to the butcher, and they would, in front of you, cut the legs off, ask what part of the animal you want, and he always knew, my partner, the farmer, and what was on the property, and you would just know the whole backstory of what you're eating. And that would go for cheese, that would go for bread, that would go for every single thing that you want to eat. And I think the food system here, when I come back home to Canada, was a bit hard to see when you ask a butcher, for example, what kind of cut chicken is this? There is a lack of knowledge even for the people at the butcher. They are just saying the farm's local. Like they're it's hard to find, I guess what I'm trying to say is that connection to where the actual product came from, whether it's meat or produce. Especially, I think, this day and age, it's like even more lost than maybe when you were growing up.
Yeah, I see a lot of things happening that disturb me. Like, so as an example, the situation you were mentioning just now, when people actually try to make fruit look perfect,
Yes.
people have no idea what the actual fruit look like because they don't grow anything. Okay? And not growing anything kinds of makes you disconnected from what that thing actually looks like. So as an example, one of the new practices is that the supermarket chains, whether it be Walmart or whatever, they spray a peel, which is a Bill Gates invention, to stop the fruit from degrading, right? To prolong the and we played a little bit of a video some time ago. I wish I had it queued for today, actually. where it's a substance that they spray onto the fruit when it gets to the supermarket level. The problem with that, Nicole, is that the fruit that they're spraying is organic fruit.
Mm.
So the people who thought, I'm just going to go to the supermarket or a large supermarket chain and I'm going to buy organic food.
Yeah.
Right? It's getting sprayed as well. And a lot of people don't know that. And it has had detrimental effects for health.
Mm.
Now, you said you worked in horticulture and so on. Did you have to actually examine specimens or did you actually have to deal with soil cultures and so on?
No, we didn't. There was other people around that I saw did, but I didn't have any part in that. No.
Okay, because what we're seeing right now is that the nutrient value of a lot of the food is going down and it's showing up in our like assessments of people. So as an example, the HTMA that I do, that's hair tissue mineral analysis, in certain parts of the country where it's an agricultural area, right? So I live in an agricultural area, you live in an agricultural area, but we're seeing deficiencies in minerals, right?
Correct.
From
Yeah.
food that is actually grown here, which is unprecedented in a place where people are living close to the land. How
Mm.
does that even happen?
Mm.
Now, is it just that they're using the land too much, or is it agricultural practices, or what is it?
It is losing the land too much. I mean, which kind of goes in hand with agricultural practices because we are using the same land. And what is that film in on Netflix? It's a great one. Uh, Something of the earth. Oh, I forget, man. But anyway, basically, we're depleting what you're saying. It's we're using the same land over and over and over again, and there's no all the good soil when you think of like your gold soil we used to call in horticulture is there's nothing because there's no full circle. Like we're just using it over and over and over again, but we're not getting the animals or the wildlife or any sort of nature involved to help re fertilizing it or rejuvenating it or some natural way that the environment usually goes about you know um,
Mm.
getting that soil healthy again and alive. So there is that is the main cause because it starts from the, the soil. If you don't or if you're not growing in good soil, it's a very tricky process to achieve any sort of nutrients in the food you're growing.
Yes, and then there is the whole concept of the impact on the health of the population, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which is what you guys do. You guys actually see those trends and give people facts. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Thanks, David. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm really passionate about with DNA Power. Um, I care about what I put into my body, and I think everyone should. And I think, you know, DNA Power is unique because there's a lot of information coming from a lot of different places, especially nowadays. And it's really simple with DNA because it's your DNA and it's unique to you. And it I mean, to me, that's just simple. If it's your DNA, like what is the who's going to tell you something different in this? And it's what I like about it is yes, you do it one time, you get your results, and you know for life. It's a beautiful gift to yourself or to someone else. I just gifted my dad it, and I'm really excited for his results to come. But it's one of those things that you just. I used to go to a naturopath, and I used to do the because I never felt good in my gut, and I used to do the urine sample, and that's great, but it's not for life. It's temporary. And the beauty with DNA is you do it one time and that's it. You have it for life. It's your DNA, and it's like 100%. Like you can't think, oh, maybe that didn't work or maybe this. Like it's your DNA. It's you, and it's unique to you.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's unique. I think especially with DNA Power because it does go into a lot of different fields of diet, which I'm really interested in, like food tolerances, But then also, like detoxification, inflammation. You have this whole like health intro, but then you also have another aspect which goes to people who are interested in health are also interested in fitness and interested in working out and getting some life into the body, what I believe, and they also go into that. So when I got my results back, I was really interested to see that, it's actually, as an example, I've been doing weights and lifting. I was doing CrossFit and doing all these quite manually demanding sort of exercises for the body. And once I got my DNA results, I realized actually my endurance would be way more helpful if I actually just stuck to running and stuck to swimming and things like this. And it's interesting because I knew it wasn't really working, but I kept doing it because I didn't know. I don't know. I just didn't know. But once I got my DNA, it makes everything clear. It takes the guesswork out, especially with eating as well. I thought maybe I'm allergic to coffee, but really I was not tolerant to. I was not able to tolerate lactose. So it's just little things like that. And then we also get into like disease and Alzheimer's, and emotional eating was super high on mine. I was like, I knew it, but it's just one of those things you got to see 100% the score to really understand. Oh yeah, that's why.
Yep. I want to ask you a question because you seem very interested in a natural way of living. You did horticulture, which is not something someone your age would have normally, if they said, oh, I want to do horticulture, I don't know how you got into. I'm going to ask you that question eventually. All right. All right. For a lot of people watching this broadcast, your lifestyle would seem hard for them because they're busy, they got kids, they got this, they got jobs and so on. If you were to give these people some advice on how to live a little bit more naturally and healthier, what would it be based on your expertise?
I like that question. I think a big part that I noticed helped me massively is the morning and the evening, and starting off the morning with something that really works for the body. For example, feeling the sun on your face, that natural environment that we have, putting yourself into nature, whatever way, going for a walk in the forest, or finding a stream and putting water on your face, or just getting out on your deck or in your living room and just moving the body. Finding something slow to naturally wake yourself up. And it's hard. Like my alarm clock is my phone, and when we look at our phone to turn it off, we sometimes look at our phone. And I've just kind of put in a mental note that I'm going to do that phone stuff, that social media, that whole other space after I've kind of connected myself. Because if I don't connect myself at the beginning of the day, the whole day, I'm not there. I wouldn't be able to talk with you like I am now. It would just be.
Yeah, I'm laughing because the phone thing, you're a digital marketing specialist, so
yes.
The balance is going to be very difficult for you, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Hence why I wanted the call later. Later in the day than in the morning. Because mornings for me are precious. And yeah, I guess bringing movement to the body is really good in whatever form people would like to do. But also, I would always say getting out in the environment that we are gifted, especially when most of our lives, I feel like, are interior. I think a big thing to change is seeing it as, how can I be exterior? How can I be more outside and feeling a breeze, the wind, the cool air, the sun? Let just be being aware of it. And maybe your ritual, I know for my father, is having a coffee first thing when he wakes up. And this ritual I've seen him always do, and I said, just have the coffee outside, go for a walk with the coffee, bring the coffee along. You don't have to get in your car and go somewhere to walk. Like, actually look around what's in your neighborhood, even if it's not an interesting block, just walk up the street, down the street, and bring that coffee along. Like that's the routine that you keep. Just little things like that. And then finding some sort of routine in the evening, I think is really powerful before you go to bed. I think it will improve sleep as well. Yeah, those are my biggest, I guess, words of advice. Is the morning and the evenings is like key to living, I don't know, shoulders down, shoulders down, and not like this all the time, you know? Just
Yeah.
a bit of peace.
Yes, because a lot of people don't know how to unwind, and a lot of people don't know how to smell the roses. Okay. So I'm going to tell you two stories, and we're going to just expand them a little bit more.
Okay.
I used to work in Toronto. You know that city made out
That
of
city,
bricks?
yes.
Yes, that city in Eastern Canada. Yes, I used to work in Toronto. Okay, I can pretty much tell you that when I moved out into the prairies, regardless of the depletion of soil or whatever, my health dramatically improved immediately. And then I realized that it was because I didn't see the sky very much, and I was born on an island. So the movement that a lot of people have. So, like, if you were like born on a farm or a ranch and so on, and you decided to go work in corporate, that is not necessarily the best maneuver for you. And I realized that when I came out and I was able to walk outside, my health improved. So there is definitely a connection between being able to see the sky, walk around, right? Smell flowers. Like
Yep.
there were no flowers on the sidewalk in Toronto. And so there were no, like they smell flowers and so on. And even the annoying parts of being outside. Okay, you know, it's Saskatchewan, it's the prairies, so there's going to be some bugs.
Right.
Even that actually made me healthier. Even the annoyances did.
I believe it. That's
And
amazing.
so I think that is there is that. The other issue is that the food sources, since I came here, I met farmers.
That
I
is
met people
so
with
important.
gardens. Yeah. Find yourself a farmer, is what I say on most shows. Go get yourself a farmer and make friends with that man. That man
Yes.
might save your life one day. You know, zombie apocalypse coming and all. Right? That man may save your life one day. And what happened this year was that a friend of mine gave me what do you call them, seasonals or annuals, and there was basil.
Oh, nice.
It was in a little plant pot, and I don't have a green thumb. My thumb is fully brown and black. Okay, so I don't have a green thumb. So they gave me this little garden thing. It was just a pot with like these things growing. It was chives, it was tomatoes, and it was basil. Okay. And I'm like, these plants are going to die. I know nothing about them. Okay. So I had them outside and they were growing, and I did what she said. I watered them and stuff like that. And the elation when the tomatoes suddenly came forward and were like red. And I'm like, happy.
Wow.
Like I did that. But I
Yeah.
didn't do that, right? And I actually used the basil in my cooking. All right. And I'm like, that's different. That's a different feeling. And it didn't take a lot of effort. So you live naturally for a lot of time. You came from Australia, right? Right? And you lived in Western Australia. We talked about that earlier in the show. You want to give some people some advice on how they can make their living a little bit more healthy, even if it's just a little bit of gardening. It wasn't backbreaking gardening that I did. I just watered the thing, and all
Wow.
of a sudden a whole bunch of tomatoes started coming. And I had salad
That's
for
beautiful.
a while. So give people some advice on what they can do, what they can grow, how difficult it is, what are the costs involved, these kinds of things.
Right. The biggest piece of advice I could give, and this may be bizarre for people to hear, but I spent $200 on 3 chickens and it was the best $200 I've ever spent on my life. It was really unique. And I get maybe some people are living in an apartment and that's not possible whatsoever. But if it is possible, I would suggest buying chickens, or maybe some friend has chickens that they can give you. Yeah, that was the biggest game changer for me, having a chicken. I've never grown up with pets, so that was also beautiful to have as a pet, because they were just laying chickens. We do not eat them as meat. So having that warm egg and then cracking it on the pan and then watching my chickens as I'm eating it was just, it's like you with the tomato and then cooking the tomato and knowing you grew it and then you're eating it, and it just makes sense. Like it's a simple thing like that. So that's one thing, but I know that's not really popular, or not always possible, sorry, because I used to live in France with my partner, and we lived in a 24-meter square flat, and it was small and there was no balcony. And what I did was I just got little planters, and it works just the same if it's good soil in them. So those can be like $20, $10 sometimes for one. And what I just wanted to do, instead of buying flowers, which I do like, smell the flowers. If you love flowers, get the flowers. But what I always tried to do is getting anything that I could eat. So all the edibles. And instead of just getting the herbs, because I used to always just do that, I wanted like actual food. So I would do anything that you like. I think a really important thing is, when people think of gardening, they think of the stereotypical things that they should get. But then once it actually produces and they're getting their harvest, they realize, oh God, I don't even like green beans. And now I have all these green beans. What am I going to do with all this green bean? But really, I like red peppers. I should have been planting red peppers. So I think this may sound obvious, but when you are going to get your seedlings or young plants, finding something that you like is really key. Also, another thing to reduce cost, I always, instead of sometimes composting my seeds of the peppers or seeds of the tomatoes or seeds of the strawberries, I just plant them. I put the seeds in the soil, cover it with soil, not too deep. It depends for each. You'll find on Google some information on how to plant it perfectly. But basically, if you don't want to buy any seedlings or young plants, you can just use what you're eating from the grocery store. Hopefully, maybe it's from a farmer's market, so that seed is actually organic, and then you just plant that, and that is your plant. That's the full circle right there. So yeah, that's a very helpful, I think, piece of advice I could give is, if you don't want to buy anything, you can just use the seeds from what you're eating. And yeah, that's all.
No, honestly, I'm going to tell you another story, which is I've had some really good experiences out here. The next story is I had a friend, right? She's a nurse friend of mine, and the place where she lives has something called a community garden. Have you heard of those?
I have, yes. Beautiful.
Okay, so I need to tell you how this story unfolded. I was
Okay.
invited to come break ground at the community garden. Now, I'm a pretty fit guy. I get up, I go to the gym and so on. But then breaking ground and moving earth, that hurt me for days. Okay, that was the most exercise I have felt in a long time. Okay, because it was like weeding and pulling stuff out, and like I
Yeah.
spent morning doing that. Okay.
Yes.
So that was a lot of exercise. Gardening is a really high impact kind of exercise form. For you gym people out there saying, oh, David, you're weak, try it. Okay. Okay, so that's number one. There were old ladies out there putting me to shame. That's embarrassing to admit, but that's true. And I said to myself, what's the point of this? Because when I looked at the soil, it was just soil.
Right.
Okay. Skip forward 4 weeks later. There is food coming out of that community garden in abundance, like a whole bunch of food came out of that community. And I'm like, y'all are not going to the supermarket anymore. These people they planted small potatoes, they planted chives, they planted tomatoes. I got like, what did I get from that? Carrots. I got carrots. I got a
Nice.
whole bunch of, and it's like in my house. So I'm not going to the supermarket at all. And I'm like, this is such a good idea. Why isn't everybody doing this? I don't know why people aren't trying to grow anything, but I learned something from that, and I did grow something from that. I'm going to tell you right now, for those of
Uh-huh.
you listening to this broadcast, the food that you grow outside in your garden, it tastes different from the supermarket.
Correct.
It
Yes.
really, really does. Not my imagination. It's not my imagination. The tomatoes that grew outside of my house, right,
Yeah.
tasted different. Like it had like flavor. I've never tasted tomatoes that had like flavor. So because it's a tomato, right? Like nobody
Yes.
gets excited about tomatoes. Like why? Why? It's a tomato. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Tomatoes do have taste. For those of you who don't know this, those the
Insane taste too.
right, they do have taste of when you actually get good tomatoes. But I do what why is that? Why is it when you eat the stuff outside your house it has taste, but in the supermarket, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I've bought tomatoes all my life.
Yeah.
I never realized that tomatoes had taste before I cut
Grew
the
them.
ones outside my house. So why is that? Is that the chemicals? Is that the soil depletion? What goes on there?
It's both. It's from the start. I think they like the system from the start is already, since it's starting from this depleted soil, it's already, I mean, not that great when it's being grown. So it already doesn't really have, compared to your soil in that community garden, which people use as composting, and maybe they add extra, chicken poo fertilizer. Who knows? The soil that we're getting from the supermarket is already depleted, but then once it's grown, it's being sprayed. So it's like there's from the start, it's already kind of going downhill, which is too bad. But that's that's the thing is they're still in business, and we're still seeing them everywhere. Supermarkets is because people will
They want
buy.
the convenience. They want the
They
convenience.
want the convenience, exactly. And it is a lot of work to garden. Well, not so much actually, but the idea, I think, can sound like a lot of work. When you actually do it, it's not. And it's also a really natural workout, because I'm also waking up and trying to go to the gym, and sometimes just being in the garden and weeding and digging is
We'll do
just
it for
as
you every time.
just as good of a workout. Hey, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not too bad at all. So yeah, but yeah, to answer your question, I think it's it's from the very start of that plant or seed that's planted. It's when it gets to our hands, the whole cycle that it came to come to us has been, there's nothing really that great about it.
It's already been sabotaged. The food has
Yes, it's
already
already
been
been sabotaged. Thank you, David. That is it.
sabotaged. So I suppose my next question would be, you got into DNA power specifically for the reason that you wanted to understand and help people and help your family and friends. Okay.
Correct.
Um, there's some people who are thinking, is this DNA test worth it? So you want to speak about that?
Sure. I mean, I was a bit apprehensive when I heard about it too, as I think most are, and a bit confused that DNA can tell you all this stuff. I don't know much about DNA, so I was a bit
Mhm.
like, what? Like, how does this work? And yeah, even I think really doing the swab, you're kind of understanding, okay, this is actually how it works. It's getting the insides of my cheeks, like, okay, all the molecules are absorbing on this little swab. But it is I think doing it made me understand a bit more how it actually is getting processed and getting sent to the lab and the whole assembly line. But I think the 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 main attraction to me was how accurate it is.
Yeah.
and how there's so much information coming from all different directions, and it's so hard to understand what is real, what is fake. And DNA to me just was real. It just made sense. And I think that was the biggest um, seller point for me, at least. And also, I know people are quite interested in their health these days, especially now more than ever because of what I think is happening in our day and life, our world right now. So we should be more interested, and people are, but it is hard when there is so much different information coming at you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to um, go from the position of I don't want to know.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. They go
Yeah.
from the position of I don't want to know. Like if I have a predisposition, I don't want to know because it means that I might have to change something. So, as an example, if your DNA results come back with smoking is absolutely poisonous to your health,
Right. They don't want to know.
and
Yeah.
it's that living in ignorance that is causing a burden on our healthcare system, right?
Right.
Before you spend $1 million to try to deal with a diagnosis, spend a couple $100 and deal with the prevention. That's my motto, and it's not like it's $100 for life. So that's a major thing. I'm trying to understand the concepts that people have in their head. I don't want to know. If something was going wrong with me, I would definitely want to know.
Yeah, exactly. I came to DNA Power without something that was wrong with me. And I think for people that are struggling with something, it's even more of a cure to go. But I think even for people who don't have something necessarily wrong with them but are interested in their health, which was where I was coming from, it's very beneficial because you either find out things that you didn't know, you're taking the guesswork out as a whole, but then it's also it's just this tool, it's just this reassurance that's helping you for your future and for your future of life. Like there's no once you have the results, it's you have the results for life. Like it's not going to change. And I think that for me was a big one. I'm just going to plug in my computer, David. I'm sorry. I'm losing
Okay, that's fine.
connection or battery.
I think a lot of the people who are there, who are listening to this broadcast, the reason why I specifically would want to deal with DNA Power is because they have people like Nicole working for them, who's a horticulturalist. So she understands aspects. It's not just about the DNA, it's about basically a whole lifestyle and strategy that they have going on there. So this is why I would promote this company over like just about anything else that there is out there. The other issue that I want to say, and I want you to open this to you, Nicole, if there's anything else you want to tell us about our health, in terms of how we can make changes that are sustainable, or just about the company that you are representing, the segment is open. The floor is yours.
Thank you, David. That's a powerful question. I'm
So
thinking about
much,
UA. Say it again.
so much is coming to your mind. Go ahead.
There is a lot coming through my mind. Yes, you can tell. Um, I think at the end of the day, doing what feels good, because as you said, eating that tomato, that just reminds
Yes.
me, eating that tomato that you grew felt good.
Hmm.
So things that naturally feel good. When you wake up and you get sun on your face, or you even see the sun coming out through the curtains, it feels good. These natural elements in life, they feel good to the body. When we eat well and eat clean or do something for the environment, it feels good no matter we believe in it or not. There is a sensation in the body, I believe, that feels right. So I think just really trying to tune in, I guess, to what it is you're feeling on the day to day. Maybe when you're looking at your phone for too long, you feel, at least I do, a sensation of anxiousness and not an overall great feeling. But when I go for that walk in the morning or stretch the body or do high intensity sport, I I know I feel good. It's hard. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to put yourselves in those positions, but you know the end result is good. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice is just, first of all, having a bit of more awareness of your body and tuning into what's going on and trying to align that with things that feel good for you in life.
Understood. Okay, we've come to the end of this segment, but guys, listen, if you haven't scheduled a DNA screen as yet, I would suggest that you absolutely do so. Nicole, it has been wonderful having you here. This is
Thanks, David.
We talk on the email, but it's very nice to actually meet you and for sharing that knowledge with us.
You as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Nicole.
Okay. Thank you all. See
Bye-bye.
you.